Once in the highest realms of heaven, there existed an angel named Lucifer. His name, derived from the Latin light-bringer, or morning star, was fitting for one who shone brighter than all the other angels. He was magnificent, radiant, wise, and powerful, so much so that he was considered one of the chief archangels, a being of great honor and esteem. His beauty was unparalleled and his intellect unmatched. As one of the closest servants of God, Lucifer was trusted with important tasks, and his voice echoed throughout the heavenly courts with authority. But Lucifer's heart, once humble and devoted, began to change. It was subtle at first, an inner stirring, a whisper that grew louder as he gazed upon his own brilliance. The beauty of heaven was like a mirror that reflected his own perfection, and the adoration of his fellow angels fed his growing pride. Lucifer began to see himself not as a servant of God, but as something greater, something deserving of more than his current role. His status, he thought, could be elevated. His power could rival that of God himself. In the quiet recesses of his mind, a dangerous thought began to take root. Why should I serve God when I am so much like him? Why should he be exalted above all others when I am as great as he is? Lucifer's desire for power and glory began to fester, and soon he could no longer contain the burning ambition within him. It wasn't enough to be great among angels. He wanted to be supreme. In the secrecy of his heart, he nurtured a rebellion, a plan to overthrow God himself. His pride became so vast that it eclipsed all else. And so Lucifer set his eyes on the throne of God, seeking to usurp his divine rule. He began to gather other angels who shared his discontent, angels who, like him, believed that they were worthy of more. Lucifer's charisma and beauty led many of the celestial beings to rally behind him. And soon, an army of angels was formed, all devoted to the overthrow of God's reign. These were the fallen angels, who would follow Lucifer in his defiance. The rebellion was swift and violent. Lucifer, in his arrogance, believed that his rebellion would be victorious, that his power would eclipse even the Creator. But in the face of true divinity, his defiance was doomed from the start. God, in his infinite wisdom, saw the pride in Lucifer's heart. He knew that pride was the root of all sin, and Lucifer's desire for power was an insidious corruption of the very purpose for which he was created. The rebellion could not be tolerated. It was an affront to the harmony of heaven, a betrayal of the divine order. So God did what he must. In a moment of cataclysmic battle, the heavenly hosts clashed. Michael, the archangel, the leader of God's angels, rose up to confront Lucifer. With his sword drawn, Michael and his legions fought valiantly against Lucifer's forces. The battle raged in heaven's heights, a cosmic clash between good and evil. But there was no contest. God's will prevailed as it always does, and Lucifer, once exalted, was cast down. In an instant, Lucifer's beauty and power were shattered. He fell from grace, descending from the heights of heaven to the desolate void. The once proud morning star now found himself stripped of his former glory, an angel no longer. His very name, Lucifer, would no longer be associated with light but with darkness. From that moment on, he would be known as Satan, the adversary, the accuser. The fallen angels who had followed Lucifer were likewise cast down, their rebellion punished. They became demons, bound to the earth, cut off from the celestial light they once knew. And Satan, now a being of utter darkness and bitterness, stood alone. The consequences of Lucifer's fall were catastrophic. The rebellion in heaven was not just a battle between angels, it was the very first act of pride, a rebellion against the Creator that would echo throughout the universe. Lucifer's fall from grace would become a lesson for all of creation. Pride and rebellion lead only to destruction. Satan, in his new form, became the embodiment of evil. He was no longer the radiant being who had once served God, but now a creature of malice, deception, and corruption. His mission became clear: to sow discord, to lead humanity away from God, to turn mankind towards sin and rebellion, just as he had once done. He would be the adversary, the one who tempted and deceived. In the Garden of Eden, Satan's influence would first be felt. Through the serpent, he tempted Eve, and through her, Adam, into defying God's command. This act of disobedience marked the beginning of humanity's fall, as the seed of sin was planted in the hearts of mankind. Satan's plan had already begun to unfold. For millennia, Satan would roam the earth, seeking to corrupt and deceive. He would tempt the faithful, attack the righteous, and undermine the work of God. His hatred for humanity grew, for it was humans, created in the image of God, whom he sought to destroy. And yet, in his eternal pride, Satan could never change the truth that had led to his downfall. He could never overthrow God. No matter how much he raged, how much he deceived or how much he tempted, he was still a fallen angel, a being who had once known the light but had chosen the darkness. Throughout Christian history, Satan's role as the ultimate enemy of God's creation continued to play out. He is the tempter in the wilderness, the accuser in the courts of heaven, the deceiver in the hearts of men. But his end is already foretold. In the book of Revelation, it is written that Satan will ultimately be defeated. The angels, led by Michael, will cast him into the eternal abyss, and the new heaven and new earth will be established free from his corruption. For Lucifer, the story is one of tragic loss, of a being who was once exalted but fell because of pride and ambition. His rebellion serves as a warning to all of creation about the dangers of defying divine order and seeking power at any cost. His fall is a lesson about the consequences of putting oneself above God, and the inevitable downfall of those who do. And as we reflect on the story of Lucifer, the fallen angel, we are reminded that all power, all glory belongs to God alone. It is He who created all things, and it is He who sustains them. Lucifer's fall is not just a tale of one angel's rebellion. It is the eternal reminder that humility, obedience, and faithfulness to God are the true paths to greatness, and pride, when left unchecked, leads only to destruction.